Welcome to Fear No Evil, where the evil I speak about is child sexual abuse, where Psalms 23 is my foundational scripture, and where the Lord is my shepherd at all times. Now, this is part 2 of Dr. Dean Hamer, and I got this from Wikipedia. He did genetic linkage studies in the 1990s, and Wikipedia states that he gave the first molecular evidence for genes that influence human sexual orientation. His research group's first paper, published in Science in 1993, reported that the maternal, but not the paternal male relatives of gay men had increased rates of same-sex orientation, suggesting the possibility of sex-linked transmission in a portion of the population. Now, the meta-analysis of all data available at the time suggested that the XQ28, which is the region he found on the X chromosome, which he concluded that XQ28 had some role in the sexual orientation of males. And he felt that it had a significant but not an exclusive effect. Now, it also states that Hamer's results were robustly replicated in 2012 in a large, comprehensive, multi-center genetic linkage study of male sexual orientation conducted by several independent groups of researchers. And those researchers, according to Wikipedia, state that they concluded our findings, taken in context with previous work, suggest that genetic variation in each of these regions contributes to the development of the important psychological trait of male sexual orientation. Now, first of all, if you actually try to speak this stuff, it is just a mouthful of words. And after reading something like this, you would be convinced, or at least support the fact, that there is some kind of genetic component to homosexuality. Because if you've read Simon LeVay, and then if you read Bailey, and then came to Dean Hamer, and after Dean Hamer, we're going to go back to Bailey and his colleagues, because they are the researchers who actually did another study in the 2012, which is stated here. And then read Dean Hamer, you would think that there is a genetic link to homosexuality. However, what Wikipedia failed to put into their definition or their accolades of Dr. Dean Hamer, that scientists at the time questioned the validity of his findings and what it actually showed, the XQ28. He was also charged with research improprieties. The federal government was investigating him for excluding from his study men whose genetic makeup contradicted his findings. And 3, the University of Western Ontario found no consistent pattern of DNA similarity on the X chromosome, although Wikipedia will state that there are 2 other studies that did find what Hamer found. Now, once again, with scientific research, if there's other research that contradicts the study, it does not make the study conclusive 100%. So I find it amazing how when you're going through these studies, how they use words to suggest in your mind that they are 100% sure that they have found a gay gene. They're using words like, let me see, what did I just read? Robust, robustly replicated. First molecular evidence. I read another article where it said that he was vindicated, that he had given the first direct evidence of the possibility of a gay gene. That is not what Hamer found. And Hamer himself concluded that XQ28 plays some role in about 5 to 30% of gay men. The broad range of these estimates is proof that much more work needs to be done. That's what he proved. He proved that much more work needs to be done. And he only found the percentage to be from 5 to 30%. So if you want to go with 5%, that means there is 95% of the gay brothers that did not show this. And if you want to go 30%, then there's 70% of the gay brothers who did not show this trait. How come they're not explaining what's going on with the other 95% or the other 70%? Whichever percent you would like, you still have to explain what's going on. That's a pretty big, that's a more, how can I say this? That's a bigger percentage. 30%, 70%, 5%, 95%. And we're not explaining what is going on. But we're going to conclude that there's a gay gene already with these studies and build upon that, when that is not what the study is showing. Now, Science Mag, again, with Kelly Servick's article, she said that Hamer finally feels vindicated and offered the first direct evidence of a gay gene by identifying XQ28 on the X chromosome, likely associated with homosexuality. That is not what Hamer said. Hamer concluded that XQ28 plays some role in about 5 to 30% of the gay men. The broad range of these estimates is proof that much more work needs to be done. How do we go to much more work needs to be done now in 2014 that there was a first direct evidence of a gay gene by identifying the XQ28 on the X chromosome likely associated with homosexuality? And now and even in their title, it says study of gay brothers may confirm. So we may confirm the X chromosome, but now we got the first direct evidence, which likely is associated. Now we're going to go to support. We're going to go to support when there has been criticisms of this genetic linkage study that Hamer did. And even although we have more research now, at the time it was not conclusive. There are still researchers that go against this study, but we don't hear about that research. Now, do we? A genetic analysis of gay siblings. Let's remember that these siblings were gay. The sample group that all these researchers have picked were homosexual. So a genetic analysis of gay siblings supports the idea that genes on the X chromosome contribute to male homosexuality. Now we come to Bailey and colleague, where it says in Wikipedia, they did the largest independent replication effort so far, looking at 409 pairs of gay brothers, fingers the same region on the X chromosome. Now Hamer comes back in and asserts that the new research clarifies the matter absolutely. Last I knew, the word absolutely means 100%. Now let's see if this was absolutely clarified, as we have been told. Now, if you were to do no other research or even to read further into these articles, you would believe that the new research clarifies this matter 100%. This is not true. And the genetic linkage studies have largely been superseded by other techniques. And there are limitations to the genetic linkage study. And they did not find specific genes that might underlie homosexuality. Now, they did identify another chromosome, chromosome 8, I believe. But when they tried to even go further, they were able to clear the threshold for the chromosome 8, but not XQ28. And still, few scientists have ventured into this area of study because it's complex. Now, they try to use this genetic linkage study to explain why homosexuality continues to persist, even though homosexual men do not have children. Well, as far as I know, child sexual abuse has existed for quite a long time, even back in biblical era. Therefore, as long as child sexual abuse exists, doesn't that mean also too that if there's a connection, so can homosexuality?